Nick Johnson, you're up with supporting your VN release. Okay, you are still muted. I mean,
Okay, that was weird. Hello, everyone. I'm
good
Nick
night.
Johnson, and for reasons that I'm just going to start the slideshow so I can hide everything else. Um, I'm talking about supporting VNs. There's largely three phases. There is the pre-release, the release, and the post-release. Um, some of this has already been covered. For example, I heard a lot about marketing in the other speeches, so I'll try to minimize that. I'm also trying to speak slowly, so I apologize if I seem a little flat. The first part of pre-releasing, and is that you need to know what your audience is, because different audiences ask different things. I've discovered this to my regret a few times. For example, if you're releasing an all, it also depends a little bit on your studio size. I am kind of aiming this at a small corporate level because that's why I support as Sekai Project's customer relations. For example, you're releasing all ages. You have a VN about a coming of age story at a high school because it's one of the more popular ones. And so you're going to get a lot of questions about is it kinetic or visual? Kind of basic stuff. But you might get, for example, how long is it? Hey, I want to unlock Haruko's route, but I don't know how to do it. So having a rough idea of what to do, for example, if you have to talk to Haruko 9 times, give her a pickle, but don't give her the banana, that kind of thing. But the big thing about pre-release is Kickstarter. If you go Kickstarter, bear in mind that you are promised to give your rewards out. This isn't. You can have something that's silly. Oh, I'm at 30. As someone not answering all of your emails and saying 3 years later, "Hey, I didn't get my stuff," and they hadn't paid for it. But the big thing, honestly, is release. If you own your own store, you're going to get a lot of tickets about cannot purchase, slow, the tickets overwhelmed, and if you're really unlucky, you might get a lot of download issues because your server is bandwidth choked. Some of them are press tickets. I'm like, why? Okay, this isn't showing up properly for some reason.
It's Sean, you're good.
Okay, it's just my screen screwing up. I apologize. For example, you'll get, hey, I have 20 YouTube followers. Can I get a key? So you want to know your support before this ever happens. For at least day zero happens, you want to have. We only give keys out to people who have 100 followers, or 1,000 likes on Facebook, or they follow 10,000 people on Twitter, that kind of thing. I mean, these are sample numbers. Your numbers will depend heavily on what you decide your audience is like. If it's something like, say, you're releasing Negapolra, the Bust, Volume 4, hypothetically speaking, you might have higher limits than, say, someone who's releasing my very first VN, A Tale of Bob and Jane, and how they saved the village from the Doom Beast. Purchasing. If you're through Steam, this is pretty simple. You can largely just redirect to Steam support. If you're through itch.io, which I believe is free only, this is a little bit different. And if you're Humble, you'll actually need to track your keys. Tech support. Now, for REMP, this is simple. REMP uses very largely, as far as I can tell, its own engine. You might need to recommend DirectX 9.0c, which is a separate download. But say you're using Kira or Artemis, or any of the more obscure Japanese engines, or Unity, you also need to know which MSVC you have. Knowing this ahead of time saves you a lot of grief because not sometimes your coder isn't your support person. So your support person's going, I don't know the engine that well. And finally, scammers. People ask for keys sometimes, especially people ask for multiple keys. Usually just one resell in G2A. There's a thing called Media Key, which we use, which is it Media Key? Yeah, it's Media Key. You ask them, and they'll actually kind of vet people for you. I highly recommend this if you don't have a lot of time to support. And finally, post-release. There'll be people who ask you typos and bug fixes and black screens well after release. It's sometimes easy to fix, depending on your engine. But the big thing is, for example, if you want to add things, you'll definitely need to tell people, hey, we're adding this cool new route. It'll be August. It's January. August rolls around, and your programmer's gotten sick, or your artist is, in the hospital. Nothing major, but they're in a hospital. So you need to say, hey, this has happened, because you don't, you'll hear about it. and people say, "Hey, we'll be in December. Ours in the hospital, wish the best, etc." People are very understanding if you let them. And finally, if you use RMP, you may periodically need to update the game. Just don't abandon RMP games. This isn't a big deal now, but when macOS came out, this was a big deal. It broke a lot of the pre-existing games. To my understanding, there's a build coming out soon that fixes this, or it may already be out. But that's about it. You'll need to provide kind of ongoing engine support. And that's it for the main talk. Really, a lot of this was Q&A. So if you have questions, I will be looking at it now.
All right. So you just throw anything related to just supporting your release as it's happening.
Yeah.
Because it's a big topic.
Yeah, Jenny's right. Actually, a lot of the scam customer keys have gone down because Steam keys can't leave reviews. But there's people who say, "Hey, are you bulk selling keys? I'll buy 1,000 off you." You probably don't want to buy on that, because a lot of times they'll go, "Okay, well, thank you. We'll go G2A," and you'll hear about it because occasionally the G2A scammers will pirate it. This doesn't happen that often, but it still happens. I mean, there's a whole kerfuffle about it. I think 4 or 5 months ago.
Yeah, it comes up every so often. Yeah. All right. Is there anything else? I don't think I've seen anything. Tiny build. Oh, yeah. Okay.
The MSVC is a big one because depending on what Visual Studio they compiled with, it really matters. Like, we got bit by this once. Because 2010 was Necopara Volume 1. 2013 was Necopara Volume 2. I didn't catch that at first. And so I was like, wait, so you kind of have to be careful about that. It's not a big deal, but,
Yeah. Well, you have to support software a couple years after it's out, and it gets funky. All right.
For hosting, Steam, itch.io, I mean, I'll say, depending on it, you can always ask us to sell on Dempasoft. I should say. I mean, that's an option. There's Ntaku if you sell that kind of thing. Honestly, it really depends on your market. I mean, we're always happy to listen to you. I mean, plug. Obligatory plug. Sorry. But, I mean, if it may not be the best fit for you, go your own way. Honestly, as long as you make sure you know your audience, you'll do well.
Yeah, pretty much the advice is go wherever your customers are. And, there's nothing stopping you from literally being on every marketplace other than your time to be on every marketplace.
Yes. As a side note, Kickstarter, you support that eternally. Keep that in mind. So you can get someone who's 5 years out from your Kickstarter says, "Hey, I paid it. Why didn't I get my copy?" And they just paid it 10 seconds ago. And you have to give them their copy.
Yeah. I think the pain. Yeah. All right.